Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Miss Vasu Primlani, celebrity host and comedian. Can we have a round of applause? Welcome, ma'am. Up next, we have the co-founder for AIB, Mr. Tanmay Bhatt. And as our moderator, we have Senior Editor, Foreign Affairs, NDTV, Ms. Maya Mirchandani. Welcome, ma'am. I guess we are all settled now.
Everyone's settled.
Over to you.
All right.
Right, and I think the first bit of comedy in that was the introduction to me, Senior Editor of Foreign Affairs, sitting here talking about Comedy Unplugged. But, we'll tie it all in together and you'll figure out where we're going with this. Vasu and Tanmay, thanks very much for being on this panel. The topic is Comedy Unplugged and, the business of laughing, really. And I think that's a very critical question we have in a time when we're discussing what freedom of speech really is all about. I think the question I want to ask both of you to comment on, and we should get to this right away, is whether we ever had or have we lost the ability to laugh at ourselves or see humor. Are we a humorless society? Vasu?
I've seen a lot of humor, everything down from the rickshawala up to, politicians and actors. What we're seeing is a little portion of perhaps the right or the fundamentalist Indian society that seems to be very parochial in their ideology, and somehow there's media attention on it, so it seems to be representative of India. I like to believe it's not representative of all of us. It is a little faction that's speaking perhaps the loudest and certainly the most nasty way.
Well, both of you are, I don't know if the recipients is the right word, but certainly at the receiving end of legal action for your brand
Really,
of
me?
humor.
I don't remember. What did I do? I didn't.
What did you do? I don't know. We'll get to that in just
No
a minute.
idea.
But
I'm
no,
innocent,
so leaving aside the sub judice nature of the cases against you, Tanmay, come in on this. I mean, the fact is that there seems to be, if I don't like something someone says about me, I can take them to court, I can file an FIR, I can call them anti-national in this current climate that we exist in. I personally am an anti-national secular prostitute. I mean, that's my designation nowadays. Forget senior editor, but that's what I am. And it reflects a level of intolerance. I'm using the jargon that we're familiar with nowadays. It reflects a level of intolerance against anybody who has an opinion that is contrary to your own, or that you perceive may be contrary to your own without actually knowing what their opinion is more often than not.
I think this, and I've said this time and again, whenever people question me about, what happened and what do you feel, I think the biggest problem right now, especially I'm talking about the law itself, I feel like the process of dealing with the law is the punishment in itself. Which is that, like you said, people just file cases, etc., etc. It's because they know that filing a case is enough to make a person want to just give up and not deal with it. It's because the process of dealing with it is the punishment. So very often, a lot of these folks will file a case and, with the hope that it'll just get settled outside of court. A lot of them file a case because if there's a really popular name attached, it'll just give you 20 minutes on, Arnab's show or whatever it is. And most people are so afraid of dealing with the law because a person has a right to complain if they didn't like something. They're completely well within the right, and they should if they don't like something. But the person who the complaint's against has to deal with a lot of stuff before eventually, if the person's not guilty or whatever it is. Just that process is exhausting, and while you have a case on you, everyone's like, oh my God, you have a case, and a case is a big deal. Whereas people don't understand that in India, filing an FIR is not that difficult.
Not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. You have to go file an FIR if you lose a SIM card. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that big a deal. But the fact that the person who's filing the FIR is given that much more validation makes the process annoying.
Okay, taking this forward really, and in this idea that if I don't like what you say, I'm going to take you to court or I'll file a case, even if it doesn't get anywhere, it's enough nuisance value that has been created at that time. But, you know, comedy is serious business, and we were talking about this earlier. There is a very fine line between what's funny and what may be offensive. Vasu, how do you balance that line? Because it's a tough line to balance.
So across the world, we have a history of, you know, I'd like to say the comedians are a barometer of democracy. So look at Charlie Chaplin, for instance. He did a parody on Hitler while Hitler was in power, and Hitler actually banned that film, and he brought it twice to his private villa to see, right? So comedians do question the status quo, and we can be called onto it. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I just lost
about
that.
Making sure you maintain the balance between what's funny and
what's offensive.
Right. So we do question, but the questioning is not just a right, but it's a duty of citizens to question the status quo. Now, what's happening today is likened by, there was a Ram Leela on a street that was happening, and there was, it can be likened to this scenario when you had, Ravan had to be shot down by arrows, and Ravan at that time said, you give me a 300 rupee bonus and then I will die, otherwise I will not die. So he had arrows shot at him and they just bounced off. And finally the manager said, fine, I'll pay you 300, you die. So then he looked down and he caught hold of an arrow and he put it onto his chest and said, ah. So a lot of this is affected behavior. A lot of this is, I feel, disingenuous.
What an entertaining thing to watch, though.
Sorry?
It's so entertaining to watch, what you just described.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's made up. It's sensationalism. It's not authentic, I feel. So.
You know, I agree with her. You know, if you go around the world, especially in the most, like, we want to be the West in so many different ways. We want to be liberal, etc., etc. If a comedian is not at least dividing the room by half, where half of them are like, really? You went there? And half of them are laughing their ass off. That's what a comedian's supposed to do. A comedian's job is to make you a little uncomfortable. And this whole taking offense and how do you find a line between taking offense, there is no line there, very honestly, because the barometer is different for different people. A lot of people, especially in our country, taking offense is a hobby. You want to get, you know, aaj yaar kuch ho gaya, kuch offense nahi khaya, 2-3 din se thoda bore ho raha hai. Like, it's that kind of an attitude. But I think the problem arises when comedians start playing it safe. Then the people who get offended, they win. It's going to be a push and pull until if enough people are offended consistently about X topic, you can trust the fact that next year talking about the topic is going to be that much easier, because it's just a question of letting the audience get used to that and letting them be okay with it.
Well, if comedians, as you said, start playing it safe, then we're in for really dangerous times, because there is already a fair amount of self-censorship that citizens are engaging in. You know,
I mean,
an
example.
Bad by what we're saying.
An example is, let's take Bollywood lyrics for an example, right?
Yeah.
You had sexy, 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 mujhe log bole, had a bunch of cases on it. It was a huge deal. How can you use that 4-letter word, and it's crazy you use that word. And today you have, I mean, Honey Singh, just that he warms up with those lyrics, you know what I'm saying? So it's only a matter of time. You offend people 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and then they're like, okay, fine, I'm bored, I'm getting offended by this. Let's move on. So, I keep telling my friends that today, I mean, when the roast happened and et cetera happened. So, you know, after that I say, you know what, tomorrow it'll be okay to do that. It's because this brand of humor has existed for a little while. Now there are 10 other people who can do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's literally pushing the line a little bit, one at a time.
So you guys are pioneers in a sense. You're paving the way.
You guys like to use those words. We are fools who are consistently trying to do this and turn this into a living. Well, at least that's what my parents say. So
when there was this entire backlash against the roast, the AIB roast, people asked me, so what do you think about the AIB roast? I said, first, this is the first time it's being done in India at this scale, right? So you cannot judge them. And secondly, Indians honestly don't know what a roast is. It is supposed to be offensive. It is designed to be offensive. That is the point of a roast. And the third point I made was, if the recipients of the roast did not find any offense, you cannot take offense on their behalf.
But that's a cottage industry.
Right.
in this country.
That's what we found.
We had said, so we released a trailer, letting people know, hey, this is what it's going to be about, watch it with headphones. Then before the roast started, there was one big statement saying, this, you shouldn't be watching this if you're below a certain age. Then when Karan Johar walks onto stage, he again repeats it. He said, guys, this is not for the faint-hearted. So if after 3 warnings you still get offended, you deserve it. You deserve that sad feeling of being offended. If you didn't see 3 giant warnings, one being said by a celebrity, then you deserve that offended feeling. You deserve to be angry and be like, oh, my feelings are upsetting me.
But the question is really, so, okay, you're offended.
Yeah.
Nobody else really cares that you're offended. So
No.
what do you want to do with it? What are you going to do with this?
Just let it
feeling of
fester
being offended?
inside until your hand slowly reaches for a pen and you can write an FIR. I think that's the evolution of offense. It begins as a small feeling and then you start expressing it and then you eventually go to the cop station and you write that FIR.
So, taking this forward a little bit, you know, we all are on social media. We inhabit this universe of Twitter. From my own personal experience, I can tell you, I'll throw something out there, which is, to me, seemingly non-controversial. It's got nothing to do with anything. But I know that once I put it out there, I need to just step back for like 2 days. Because I will deal with the backlash of trolling, of really nasty and sometimes extremely abusive, violent language that is used to attack. Now, you know, again, this ties into the fact that we don't have patience for another point of view, or we don't have tolerance for somebody else's opinion. Very often, we don't know what that opinion is, but we know what our opinion is, and we've branded another individual. And you can superimpose this on any situation in the country today, whether it is the freedom of speech argument, what we saw in our university campuses, whether it is
But you know,
what we eat, what we don't eat.
That's
Everything becomes fodder for this
That's
kind
the
of...
medium, though. You know, I keep talking about this to people. But the internet is that medium. You're giving someone the opportunity to talk to someone directly, and you know they might read it. That's a golden opportunity to be able to say something that you know this person's going to read. And you also have the opportunity to not put your name to it. You have the opportunity of being anonymous while doing it. That's way too much power to give someone. I'll tell you what, it depends from platform to platform, right? Like I'm on Snapchat, for example. Snapchat is where people can see your face, and when people talk to me, I can see their face. I get no hate on it. It's just completely cut out. It's love.
It's not
just
the egg on Twitter.
You know, I can see you. I can see you, and you can see me react as a human being. This is human nature. It's the internet is designed this way. I get a lot of emails after 9 p.m. You know, after 9 p.m. when students are in their hostels and they're like, oh, I saw this, let me write to him. Sometimes it's angry students who say that I don't like what you said and here and there. And I always reply to them saying, hey, all good, I took note of it. They get so taken back, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to be that rude. I didn't mean that. I hope you didn't mind that. Because the second they see a human, they make human contact, they suddenly do that. I've met people who are extremely mean to me online, on Twitter, but when you meet them, they ask you for a selfie. It's because the second you meet a person and you see the reaction on their face, everything changes. So I think it's the medium is such, and I think you should get onto Snapchat. There's more love on Snapchat.
There's more love on Snapchat.
There's way more love on Snapchat.
I'll keep that in mind. But forget about more
Snapchat
love on...
Snapchat should pay me for this.
Okay, leaving that aside, social media is one thing, but I work in television. We're doing news debates every night.
I'm so sorry. Anyway, go on.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks. I know. I have a lot of commiserations for my job, especially these days, but we'll leave that aside as well. But the fact is really, again, there was a time where, and I think it happened in the previous panel, they were talking about identity and multiculturalism and whose butter chicken is better or whose machar jhol might be better and, things like that. Recently, this whole debate on Bharat Mata Ki Jai, for example, that took place. And I'm not getting into controversial territory over here, just so everyone's clear about that. But one of the rejoinders to that is, why can't we say Bharat Ammi Ki Jai? Which I thought was a really funny line, by the way. Because it was just bringing down the pitch of the debate a notch or two. But it wasn't seen as funny by so many. It was, again, offensive, and it was about religious divides. And it was imbuing motive where perhaps There was none, Masu.
You know, in rock climbing, we say the only piece you will get on top of the mountain is the piece you bring up there, right? So whatever it is that you have a beginning attitude to it's like almost like a faction of mudslingers. Whatever you say, they'll say, go to hell, and throw it on you and run away, right? So it's not about what you say. It's about what they're going to do no matter what you say. It's not about, like you said, there is no thought there.
But you should turn it into a game. Like I have turned it into a game. If I say something and someone like, oh, you said this, and I'm like, yeah, what about it offended you? And they're like, oh, you this, I didn't like it. And I said, really, how did that make you feel? Oh, 10 minutes later, I'm laughing a lot, and this person still, oh, and then they realize, oh, and then they get even more angry at that fact.
Right.
It's a really fun game. You should try it. It's like. It's like talking, like I have a really young cousin. It's like talking to a child. As an adult, you can just play with the child. The child has no idea you're playing a game. But,
Right.
it's like talking to a child. It's like wrestling with a child. I think after a point, as an artist, at least I've realized, the lesser you read people's opinions, the better it is.
Yeah.
And I think, especially as a public figure,
But isn't that a double-edged sword? Because if you don't know what people are saying, then you
you
won't
know what you roughly know what people are saying.
Yes.
But you don't have to read what everyone's saying individually. You roughly know.
If they're taking themselves so seriously, you don't take them seriously is what he's...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is requires immense patience. I've done 6 months of yoga and I've reached here now. But it requires immense patience. Yeah.
practices before you go on to a show.
Look, I have been hated for a really long time, so I'm like a veteran in this. I think if you're new at this, I'd recommend some yoga. It's good.
So in a situation like ours, in a country like ours today, where you have so many groups and subgroups and subgroups, and we'll break that down even further, but let's not do that for the sake of time. Everyone's attacking, defending. I mean, when do you stop this? But also, I mean, taking that a little bit forward, in the space of media or print or electronic, as the case may be. In the US, for example, you have people like Jon Stewart and Bill Maher who've made names for themselves on political satire, and they're taken seriously as journalists as well.
Yeah, they win Peabodys all the time. Comedians win Peabodys all the
seriously
time.
as commentators, social and political commentators, and yet they're extremely funny. When will we get to that kind of stage? I mean, when do you think we ever will, rather?
I think, Vasu, what do you think? When will we get there? This is more, she's basically looking at us being like, why are you not like Jon Stewart funny? Like, that's basically what she said. When will we get the comedy we deserve, Tanmay?
I'm taking it from the other line. It's between my sister and I. I have a twin sister. And the one who would win the argument would be the one who would yell louder. Or she'd sit on me. And that's how she'd win an argument. And this is that India. One sits on you and yells
I've used that
louder.
argument. It's pretty effective.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So there you go. Yeah, that's mine.
I think
To answer your question, America's seen comedy for 70, 80 years now. It's been a while. Its comedy's evolved over a period of time. And mind you, when American comedy was at its absolute nascent stage, it was like the kind of comedy we are seeing now. It began with immensely, a lot of it being sexist, a lot of it being racist humor. It began that way. Over a period of time, the audience evolves. They start getting smarter. Like I give this example all the time. Rahul Gandhi joke was hilarious 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It used to be the new, like, oh my God, he said Rahul Gandhi, that's so funny. Today, that joke is getting tired now. It's just saying Rahul Gandhi is not generating a laugh. Now you need to find a new angle to it. It's because audiences, yeah, I mean, to be fair, he gives you a lot of material, so you're never short. But
we did say this was not going to be a politically correct panel.
I can say till 2019 at the very least. So I think it's a matter of the audience evolving. The second the audience stops laughing, the comedian will have to better himself. He will have to improve his craft. And I think it's literally, and I think if America took 80 years to do it, we'd take far lesser because of the new digital age.
And they get new fodder every day. Now they've got Donald Trump.
Yeah, now they got Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a great president for comedians.
It's actually Donald Trump, actually.
Yeah. Trump, make
Trump is
Donald Trump again.
Yeah.
Right. So, Vasu, in today's India, what would be fodder for comedians? What are the issues that you guys would put into your acts when you go out there and perform?
It's my friend, she said to me, Jennifer, just day before, she said, everywhere you look, right? Everywhere you look, you have comedy. Just the way, I don't know, I came from the US 6 years ago, and, I have sets on how I can tell there's an Indian in line behind me, how we treat the environment. Delhi Men, I have a very, very popular set on Delhi Men, which is universally popular because Delhi men are universally hated. So,
Just Delhi men?
Delhi men particularly. I mean, Mumbai men are not, like I said, not like Delhi men. I have this, one joke is like, I find Delhi men are immature. They take offense at the jokes I make about them. Not so Mumbai men. Mumbai men have no problem by making jokes about Delhi men.
And why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
He's a Mumbai man. He's a Mumbai guy.
I don't know. I think...
Delhi is politically, we're the important people. We make decisions for the rest of the country. So
if you walk down the street in Delhi, you will not find a man and woman holding hands and walking down the street. In Mumbai, you'll see that. And that's okay. All right? The gender divide.
I didn't know it was allowed. I guess I'll try.
I thought in Mumbai you had the police. You had the romance police out there picking up couples from cars and beaches and
they do it
and
anyway.
everything.
But they do it anyway.
I don't know.
There's a friendship between men and women more so. There's
So
a very
Tanmay,
strong
why are
patriarchal
Delhi men
divide.
more fodder for her than Mumbai men, for example?
Because Delhi men are, they're industry leaders when it comes to jokes, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why it is. But I think Mumbai men are also funny. It's just that Delhi men outshine them in so many departments, in so many ways that it's hard for us to catch up.
I think he's being awfully polite.
There are lots of Delhi men here, and I want to get home tonight, so I'm going to try and be politically correct. Jai Bharat Mata Ki, or whatever it is that.
Are there any Delhi men who'd
say.
like to sort of respond to Tanmay on this?
There was a metal detector outside, so I'm not that worried right now. And also, most places in Delhi have a "Don't carry arms and ammunition" sticker nowadays. So, just in case they forget, I don't think they're getting any of these jokes.
So
I think I'm just going to move on.
Vasu said that Delhi men are a fair amount of fodder for her routine when she goes out to perform. What about you?
As a Mumbai man, I take offense to that. Because we are equally stupid and we do equally immature things. Have you been on a train? Look, there's applause coming from somewhere. That's how stupid we are. I'm saying we have worse jokes and someone's like, yeah, that's right. We are way worse.
And because we're in the business of taking offense, you have just taken offense to what Vasu said.
Yeah, I've taken offense. It's today. I was supposed to take offense at 3 p.m. today. The doctor had told me. I missed my deadline, I guess. I'm actually spot on. It sounds 3 p.m. exactly.
Right. So, but you still didn't answer the question, which is when you are working on your programs, what are the themes you pick up on when you look at issues around the country?
I think at least the comedy that we really enjoy is like I said, the ones that make people go a little quiet. Because I think that gives there's a great saying, which is how good your comedy isn't necessarily gauged by how much the audience is laughing, but how much silence there is and how much they're paying attention to when you're not talking. I think that's the comedy we enjoy. So when we do live shows, that's what we try to do. We haven't done one in a while, but whenever we do, I think that's what we aspire to do. Like one of the shows we're working on is a show called Taboo, which is a show exclusively discussing the most taboo topics.
Which would be what?
Sex, religion, politics in India. These are the 3 most taboo topics in India. That's it. Thanks, guys. It's been nice knowing all of you.
Okay, so I want you to come in on that as well. What topics are absolutely no-go areas for you?
For me or for India?
For people in your profession in
No,
India.
in our profession we talk
There's
about
no no-go area.
Yeah, we talk about everything. I've got jokes on rape. I go talk about women's safety, environment. People are generally not interested in those, but I get applause in those. So no, we talk about everything
depends
from
on
religion
what-
to democracy.
I don't think topics there's no barriers to any topics. It depends on what you do with it. Like one of the rules in comedy is you always try and punch upwards, which means the joke should be hitting someone who's at a higher position in society or the establishment or so on and so forth. So if it's a joke about, if it's a joke about poor people, for example, something about poverty.
It's not
It has to. It's not funny if you go make fun downwards. It's not funny if you say, "Ha ha, you're poor." But it can be funny if you say, "Ha ha, you're poor because of this idiot who's been doing this to you, and this idiot who's been doing this to you, and this idiot who's controlling the whole thing." So when comedy travels upwards, when you punch upwards, it makes no sense. And everyone's asleep immediately. I've been talking theory for the last 10 minutes.
No, they're not asleep. We have about 5 to 10 minutes left, and I'm sure there's lots of questions for Vasu and Tanmay. So I'm going to open this up to the floor right now.
There's some gentleman
There's
there.
somebody who's been very persistent with his hand up right in the back. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
He's been waiting. He seems like one of those guys who's been waiting. Like 10 मिनट से पूछना ला उसको
Now he's
क्या
just
बोला तू
gonna
तभी
get
क्या
to
बोला
you.
बाहर मिल हाँ is his mic working?
Hello.
Yeah.
I said Jai Bhavani, Jai Shivaji. So only you would get this joke here. No, and this is the first time I'm watching you without paying actually. So thank you for that.
The first time you're watching me without bathing. What?
Without paying.
Without paying. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
ये तो फ्री में शो हो गया यहाँ पे.
Really miss you, yeah.
Without paying. Cool. If you pay, it's funnier.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I figured that out. But anyways, the question I would want to raise is, so I see comedy as a separate vertical for entertainment, right?
Comedy has separate vertical from entertainment.
For entertainment.
From the word for entertainment.
For
Okay.
entertainment, right?
Okay.
But the scene of comedy in India is not very large. For example, even if I go to the comedy store in Mumbai, right? Every Sunday, the same content is repeating probably, right?
Maybe just find different things to do on Sundays for a bit.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
too
don't go every Sunday. Maybe just
No, I'm
go out
going-
with friends or have some dinner or go watch a movie. It's like saying मैं हर संडे को दिलवाले देखता हूँ यार हर बार वही पिक्चर बजती है. Like it's.
मतलब मेहनत नहीं करनी है.
I'm kidding. Go on.
Yeah. So, I mean, why so? Why not?
I'll tell you.
know,
This is a very it's a very simple answer for this. There are a lot of shows and comedians are all getting as much stage time as possible. If you watch the same comedian back to back in subsequent weeks, you will hear the same jokes. It's not because the comedian's bad. That's just how it is worldwide. If you know, not many comedians can put out 30 minutes. I mean,
It's
no
the
one can
humor
put
of
out.
the season.
Huh?
Perhaps it's the humor of the season.
No,
The-
this is how a joke is made, right? Like Vasu will have 30 minutes that's doing very well on stage. This is great. So whenever she's at a public performance where she has to give her absolute best, she will do those best 30 minutes. A show that he's watching, that'll be the best 30 minutes. Then Vasu will do a smaller show somewhere for fewer people where she'll try some like 10 minutes of new jokes.
And see how it's received.
See how it goes. Then over months, she'll keep developing that joke, see how it delivers better. She'll keep honing it. It'll get trimmer. It'll make sure the laugh's coming at the right point. Then if you catch Vasu again 3 months later, that joke which she tried in a smaller room will become a part of her strongest 30. And then you'll be able to see new material. That's just how it works. Unlike, it's not like humor columnists who are just cranking out 500 new words every week. Here it's a combination of writing it and then performing it and fixing it and acting it, etc.
So, Vasu, isn't there a bit of an irony because we were talking about the US scene earlier and Donald Trump. We, as an Indian news consuming audience, are perfectly happy making jokes about Donald Trump and laughing at American politics. And, whether it's offensive or not offensive, it's their problem. It doesn't concern us.
Yeah.
But when the joke's on us, then we have a problem. I mean, then shouldn't the standard really just be the same? That if you don't find it funny, it can't be funny even if it's Donald Trump.
Right. It might hit a little too close to home. It's like, oh, did you hear Sharma's son is gay? And if you find out your cousin is gay, you're like, oh.
Yeah. 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 That is my net contribution to this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Yeah,
Yes,
okay, there.
question-
We have
question
a,
from there.
Can we get a microphone there?
Hi, Tanmay. We had met earlier.
Hi, how's it going?
You just explained the science of comedy as to how, a joke is made and
Yeah.
takes sometimes 3 months
Yeah.
for it to develop.
Yeah.
Don't you think this should become a part of the Indian education system and you should recommend?
I have been an advocate for comedy being a tool to educate for a long time. I don't know if you guys, we did some videos about net neutrality, AIB taking up the cause of net neutrality. But the whole idea was, how can we take a complex subject and explain it and make it accessible through comedy? I 100% think comedians should teach actual subjects to students. I think comedy will make anything more accessible, and comedy is, as a tool, will drive a point home far stronger, than anything else. I am completely with you. I know this is not the answer you were expecting. He was like, मैं कुछ joke मार दूँगा, education के बारे में हंस लेंगे सब. ये तो serious हो गया. I hope that answers your question, though.
Yeah, Basu, you want to come in?
And I actually do teach. I teach business school and I teach at IIT Delhi. And the tenets of comedy require you to deliver your message in a succinct fashion. So you deliver it in half a second, and it's delivered in such a fantastic way that this man is asleep right there. Tanmay? The great issue.
Anyway, go on.
You have to deliver it in such a way that not only will the message be delivered, the message will be retained and repeated. A joke is repeated, like it was so funny.
अरे सुना क्या उसने quantum physics के बारे में एक joke मारा था, बहुत funny था. मैं एक बार बताता हूँ, मैं लिख के देता हूँ, देखो लिख के देता हूँ.
Right. So, and it promotes lateral thinking, it's creative thinking, thinking out of the box. You compare two things that are completely unrelated. So it actually has a lot of critical thinking behind it, and it should be promoted in schools, yeah.
We have time for just,
Hi.
I think, two more questions, really.
All
Yeah,
right.
one more, yeah.
Hi, Sumit.
Hi.
Questions to both of you and to the general clan of comedians, people who take up this profession as a lifelong kind of a thing. Do you get approached by politicians or political parties or even corporates who want to use comedy as a weapon against their adversaries?
Yeah.
And how do you react to that?
Has this happened to you?
Both of you, it's for both of you.
Both of you.
I know that during the last elections, AIB was approached by all political parties to make videos for them. We didn't take any of those up at that point. Make video or make fun of the opposition or whatever it is. I know that popular Hindi comedians are constantly being told what to say, what not to say, or at least it used to be the case. I remember I'd done one interview with Mr. Raju Srivastav, who at the peak of his career was doing, it's still pretty much the peak, he was doing 50,000, 60,000 people in a ground, that many people. He used to perform at political rallies. He once told me a story. He was like, मुझे ना हर हफ्ते ये नए बाबा लोग DVD भेजते हैं. And I was like, why? He's like, वो चाहते हैं कि मैं देखूँ इन DVD को और मैं उनके बारे में मजाक उड़ाऊँ. And I was like, why? He's like, उनके हिसाब से ना अगर राजू श्रीवास्तव उनका मजाक उड़ा रहा है तो वो कोई है. You know, people will look at his joke, and even if he's making fun of someone, people will be like, acha, there's this Baba, at least recollection aata hai usse. You know, and Raju when he used to do these shows, there used to be 5 politicians sitting in the front row. Right? And he'd be like, अरे आप तो आपने ये बोला था वो रैली में, make one joke about politician 1, 2, 3, 4. But the 5th guy is not as popular, and Raju would be like, आपकी नकल मैं अगली बार जरूर करूँगा, and he used to culto because he didn't know about the guy. The guy would get mad and leave. Raju, Mr. Srivastava was like, this used to happen to me on a consistent basis. So if a comedian is making fun of you, it's almost like a stamp that you're relevant. And I know this was true for a long time.
Vasu, you want to come in on
And this has actually been used in the US also. There was, I think it was Bob Hope, who was known most for his making fun of, and if your name was taken in a show, it's the who's who of the United States of America. So yes, again, because it's such a critical tool and it's so popular. So, and it's the finest, the cleanest, nicest message you can get. Yeah.
Okay, so we're really running out of time, so I'm going to ask the last question actually, which is, where you guys are today in terms of the Indian media scene, the news scene, the comedy scene, the entertainment scene as it may be, is very different from where it was, say, when I was growing up. We had Jaspal Bhatti, and he used to make us all laugh on Doordarshan every Sunday with different jokes, I'll have you know.
He had a team of writers, but sure, go on.
Yeah, okay. So from there to you guys, what next? Where's the trajectory for your professional futures in India? Where do you guys see it, Vasu?
The basic tenet of
individual shows on television, social media.
Yeah, we do all of that. Yeah. Oh, I thought you're talking about the format of the show. Yeah, no, it's a multi-dimensional, multi-platform. Being a comedian, I write. We write, we perform for television, we do social media, we do internet videos, we all do all of that. But for me, the job of a comedian is to hold a mirror to society and say, this is what you look like. And I consider comedians to be change makers, that we promote change and we push that boundary. And between the boundary of what you are comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, between what you know you can do and what you know you cannot do, is where all growth lies. So yes, comedians do hold the bastion of democracy and pushing the trajectory of democratic values in practice, not just in theory.
Tali bajao, tali bajao. No one's applauding. Guys.
Tanmay, we'll ask you to come in on that as the last word as well.
Where for us, I know that everyone's going to be on the internet now with 4G coming in and, you know, Reliance is going to give everyone a free phone. I think what will be, yeah, it's free phone. For $5, you have internet for life. So I think it'll be amazing. I think there's an opportunity to entertain every Indian now, which is a huge opportunity. So definitely more content online. Never before in the history of India has a joke been more accessible. There was a time where you would be in front of a television and someone would be making a joke and that's a moment for you. Now you have to choose which joke you want to watch. There's jokes on your WhatsApp and your Twitter and you open YouTube and you know, someone else will tell you somewhere and there's just jokes everywhere now. So it's a huge opportunity. Personally for AIB, there are 2 or 3 things we want to do. We want to turn movie producers, hopefully soon. I know that we want to do a political roast, really, you know, politically correct and a political roast is one of the dreams for us. I know that we want to get into education. We've, like you spoke about Mr. Jaspal Bhatti. Jaspal Bhatti sir has this amazing school he's opened, you know, in Punjab, where little 18-year-old Punjab kids are being taught how to write satire and shoot satire. You know, we want to run a school in India which teaches kids how to do comedy and write satire. So there are 3 or 4 dreams of ours, and I think this is the right time. This is the golden era of internet creators. Yeah, today is the time. I think so. The opportunity is there to be seized. So that's what we're going to try and do.
And I think the point Vasu made is actually quite an apt point as well to end on, which is that it is really about holding up a mirror to yourself, to ourselves as society. These words that we're banding about right now, the right to free speech, tolerance, intolerance, I think all of it boils down to us being able to take a hard look at ourselves and sometimes laugh if it requires that, but don't take offense for the sake of taking offense and see what's going on the other side as well. I think we'll have to end it at that. Thank you all so much for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would request Ms. Meerchandani to kindly present a memento to our esteemed panelists. First and foremost, Ms. Primlani.
Please, guys, please continue applauding. Thank you. We are amazing people and we deserve.
And of course, Tanmay Bhatt. Thank you. Well, that was Comedy Unplugged.